a slide on the Captagon trafficking and perhaps a little of the background. Captagon originally used to be phenethylene, a substance, an amphetamine type stimulant produced originally in Europe. And then many years back, it was came under international control. It's not any longer produced for illicit purposes. And then gradually, the name remained Captagon. And in more and more, Captagon, what you find on the market nowadays, is not any longer the original phenethylene. But what is we find in the Captagon tablet is amphetamine. Amphetamine mixed with caffeine. It's a different product. Similar type of substances, but it's a different product. Illegally produced. For many years, it was produced in Southeast Europe, and then illegally produced there, trafficked via Turkey, the Middle East, to Saudi Arabia. What we have seen here is that the production in Europe has declined. We also had, for some years, it was quite an important production in Turkey. This also has declined. But what we have seen here in the last couple of years is more and more coming out of Syria. So we don't have the evidence where it's produced in Syria, but it comes out of Syria. So other countries report that it departed more or less directly from Syria, sometimes Lebanon, but it typically Syria, Lebanon, and then to the other countries. And the biggest markets clearly for Captagon is Saudi Arabia. So for the specific product, Captagon is Saudi Arabia. But also we find it in the other Gulf states, and it's clearly a growing problem in that region.
How dangerous is this kind of drug?
It is similar to I mean, it is amphetamine, and amphetamine is a problematic drug. Typically, a pill does not have too much of an amphetamine content, so you have to take several pills. But okay, it's an issue how many pills you take, and it gives you the idea of becoming a kind of Superman. Imagine this with somebody who has his guns in his hands and he thinks now he's Superman. He's shooting right and left, he's killing right and left, and he thinks he's great, yeah, for whatever purpose he does it. So it is really used for soldiers, very often linked with the war which we have now, the civil war in Syria, and on all fractions, we find it on all sides. So it's not just one specific one, we find it all across that it is being abused for this purpose. But in addition to some of it comes onto international markets. But we don't know exactly, we don't have evidence.
But it beats, for example, physical fatigue. So you go on for hours. That's why by stimulating the endurance of your soldiers, you want them to take it. But that, of course, in the long run harms your body already by itself. So it is indeed a harmful drug.
You mean it is being circulated among soldiers?
Oh yes.
Even in Yemen, for example?
I mean, I wouldn't be able to say, I mean, where exactly that is happening, but in historical terms, I mean, Captagon is not necessarily something invented. I mean, while the substance itself might have changed over time, I mean, there are incidences known of the Second World War where Captagon was indeed used by soldiers. I mean, to give them more endurance to fight and keep them going.
Like ISIS, for example, do they distribute that to their
I would not dare to suggest them in individual groups or settings, but we know that in Syria overall, this is a product which is being manufactured and now being exported to neighboring countries such as Saudi Arabia.